Hello chess fans, this is Rick from Chess to Impress with number 93 in the series Viewers Games. It is the turn of Gjsanu. He played with white in this game against Mohammad. And Gjsanu had a rating of 1108, Mohammad had 1250. I'm not sure on which platform this game was played. I also am not sure if it was a blitz game or a rapid game. I asked Gjsanu for some details, for a few lines about himself so I could introduce him. He said, "I'm a guy that is learning to play chess and this was quite a good game for me." Gjsanu is a man of few words and he is right, we're here to play chess, not to give lengthy introductions. Let's have a look at the game. Knight c3 is an unusual first move, but not a bad move of course, from Gjsanu. e5 was played by his opponent, and here knight f3 is a move that has been played by grandmasters. For example, Vasily Ivanchuk played this move, but Gjsanu went for d4 instead. Unusual move. Black took, and you have to take with the queen, bringing the queen out quite early. And the drawback is visible straight away because Mohammad kicks the queen with knight c6. Gjsanu went back to d1 and knight f6. White has not played accurately in the first 5 moves. He has not done anything very badly, but he had the advantage of the first move, and now black is one step ahead in development. He's got 2 knights into the game and white only 1 knight. So the advantage of the first move has gone over to black because of white's maneuver, queen takes d4 and queen back to d1. Nothing too serious, but it is a pity to give away the advantage of the first move. Bishop g5 developing, bishop b4 and queen d3. The third queen move in 6 moves played. This one does make sense to avoid doubled pawns after bishop takes c3, but it's again a move with the queen. 8-6 kicking the bishop, bishop back to d2, black castled, g3, and here knight e5 is a good move. The engine likes it, especially because the queen can no longer go to g3, which was a nice square for the queen. Now that's no longer possible. The engine really likes knight e5, kicking white's queen again. And white's queen is very unhappy in the firing line of black's pieces. But rook e8 was played first by Mohammad. Bishop g2, and now he played knight e5, and now it's also a strong move. Queen went to b5, and here a5 to protect the bishop is a good move, followed by c6 to keep kicking the queen around while improving the position. But Mohammad decided to take on c3. Bishop takes, and now d5 is a nice move. The knight on e5 is hanging. It's attacked by 2 pieces, only protected by the rook. And d5 solves that problem. It makes sure the queen is no longer attacking the knight, and it also opens up the diagonal for this bishop. So d5 is a nice move. But Mohammad decided to save his knight by playing it back to c6. e3, a6, kicking the queen again, queen to a4, and now d5. Knight e2 developing, b5, the queen gets kicked again, queen b3, now that queen is on a stable square. Bishop b7, Gjsanu castled. Gjsanu has been able to find a safe place for his queen and has finished his development. Knight back to e5 and knight f4, attacking the d-pawn now with 3 pieces, but it's protected well enough by black's 3 pieces. Mohammad decides to protect it one more time with c6, blocking in that bishop now. a3, knight f to g4, black is going to attack white's king, as we'll see. Knight d3, the knights were swapped. C takes and queen g5. Black is bringing his pieces closer to white's king. Queen d1, good move, Gjsanu. The queen was not doing much on b3. And queen h5, and now we have a threat. A checkmate threat in 1 on h2. Gjsanu saw that, played up the h-pawn, kicking the knight. Knight went back to f6, and g4. And now it's white's turn to harass black's queen. Queen h4, Queen f3, bringing the queen into the defense, and Rook e6, a rook lift, maybe dreaming of bringing that rook into the attack on White's king. But White's king position is very solid. It has many defenders around, and Black does not have a lot of firepower in his attack. Rook ae1, Rook ae8, and e4, opening up the position, but Gjsanu did not count accurately. Yes, this pawn is attacked 4 times and defended 4 times. Let's count. So this pawn is attacked by the pawn, by 2 rooks, and by the knight, and is defended by a pawn, by the rook, by the queen, and by the bishop. But the third defender for White is the queen, which means Black can win a pawn. So not good counting from Gjsanu. And Black did take on e4. D takes e4, and now knight takes e4 wins a pawn. Because you cannot keep recapturing with White. Rook takes, queen takes, rook takes, bishop takes. Yes, 4 captures from each side, but if we count the pieces, then Black has the queen for rook and bishop. Black has 1 material. So knight takes e4 does win a pawn. But Mohammed did not see that, and he played c5 instead. Queen g3 offering a trade of queens, and Black can still win that pawn on e4 by taking on g3, f takes, and knight takes e4, with just an extra pawn for Black. But Mohammed must have been thinking about the kingside attack that was still on his mind, and he wanted to keep the queens on the board. But queen g5, which was played, is a big blunder. And Gjsanu found a refutation. He's going to chase that queen, and the queen does not have a lot of elbow room. f4, yes indeed. Where can the queen go? Well, really only to g6. But then the f-pawn keeps advancing and gives a fork on 2 heavy pieces. White wins. Knight takes e4 was played by Mohammed. Bishop takes e4, the fork is still there. Rook takes e4, and now Gjsanu took the queen. Rook takes e1, and you can take back on e1, nothing wrong with that. That square is also covered by the queen, but Gjsanu found an in-between move. G takes f7 is check, and here Mohammed had enough, and he resigned. He's just too much material down. Let's see what could have happened. Black is in check, so king h7, then f takes e8 queen is the best move. Rook takes, queen c7, hitting the bishop, and also attacking the g7 square with 2 pieces, so threatening queen takes g7 checkmate. After rook g8 to protect g7, then rook f7 is the best move. 1 more attacker of the g7 square, and it will be mate in a few moves. Not the most exciting or interesting game I've shown in this series, but a good game from Gjsanu. Well played, Gjsanu. You beat an opponent with 150 rating points more than you. Well done. The 2 motifs we saw in this game was the vulnerability of the queen in the opening. Don't bring your queen out too early, because it can be kicked around by your opponent's pieces. Your opponent will improve his position with those moves, and your queen will have to flee all the time, which means you cannot develop your own army because you have to play with your queen all the time. The second point, let's put it on the board, was this move e4 on the 26th move by Gjsanu. It's a crucial move, it opens up the position, and I'm not sure how long Gjsanu thought about this move, but you really have to spend a lot of time on moves like this. In this case, Gjsanu miscounted. He probably saw that the pawn was attacked 4 times and defended 4 times, but what he had missed was that the queen is the 3rd defender, so if everything gets exchanged on e4, then Black will win material anyway. And then in the end, Black did not swap the queens, wanted to keep the queens on the board, hoping for a kingside attack, and it was quite funny that in the beginning of the game White's queen got kicked around, but it was at the end that Black's queen got trapped, and Gjsanu won a nice game against a much higher rated opponent. If you would like your game to be analyzed, you can send it to me by email to classroomchess64@gmail.com. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give the video a thumbs up, please subscribe to the Chess to Impress channel, and please leave a comment. If you liked the video, it would be great if you could share it on social media by clicking the share button on YouTube. You can find me on Instagram, on Twitter, and on Facebook. This is Rick for Chess to Impress. Thank you for watching.